Hey everybody! Today's topic on the Aspie Life of Lisa deals with sensory issues with foods and what my sensory issues with foods are and how I overcame those sensory issues, especially on my fitness journey, and the things that I needed to do and how I trained myself to overcome them. So if you like this video, feel free to click like, comment below, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll be posting a new video. So today's topic is, of course, sensory issues with food, and what are they? So as a kid, I was always a very picky eater, and what it wasn't that I meant to be a picky eater. It's actually quite common for people on the autism spectrum to be picky eaters, and that is because of certain sensory issues. It's to do with textures, it's to do with certain foods, drinks. For me, my sensory issues were with tomatoes. Certain textures, what it was just the certain texture of the tomato, especially when it's soft. When I put it in my mouth, I would literally just gag. I would want to gag. And even as an adult, that's something I would do. And it wasn't because I just didn't like them, but it was the sensory issue, the texture. It just literally felt so slimy. And even with bananas, if they're too soft or bruised bananas, I can't have a banana that's bruised. And it's the texture that it just makes me gag. So textures that are very soft textures, so textures that are way too soft or too squishy make me literally gag, or very strong smells. And even milk, I used to be able to have regular milk, and now it's like I've gotten used to having plant milk, oat milk, cashew milk, almond milk. I never used to like them, but now I can have those as opposed to cow's milk or animal milk. So how I overcame picky eating and how I overcame my sensory issues was exposure. The biggest one is exposure to that food, and instead of taking it all in at once, I started off with baby steps. So with a tomato, for an example, a cherry tomato, I had to start off with having it cut in a quarter just to get the exposure of it, and I kept doing that, and then I had to work my way to a half, then a full. And with tomatoes to this day, I can have them in something. Cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, I can have them now full, but that's because I had to train myself how to overcome that, and I had to expose myself to that food. And a lot of those sensory issues, some of them will be outgrown over time. Some of them can be outgrown with experience and with exposure. But instead of exposing them, or exposing yourself, or exposing the child who's on the spectrum all at once, do it in very small doses. And it could take time for them or somebody to overcome that. But it's not to do with them trying to be a picky eater for the sake of it. It's the textures. That's what it is. Like, even with me with vegetables, it was certain textures. If a texture was too soft or too hard, it was too much for me to just literally eat. But the more exposure, a slow transition exposure, the better I got with that, and the more I got used to having that. It was like even with whole wheat stuff, it was with whole wheat, the roughness of it, the hardness of it, it just didn't feel right. But the more exposure that I got to it in a slow transition, the better I got at eating those whole wheat foods and healthier foods, and the better that I got with my eating habits. So I hope this video helps, and I hope my experiences with foods can really help. Again, if you like what you see, or if you have any ideas or what's worked and what doesn't, because remember, everyone on the spectrum's different, so what works for one person, it might not work for another. Feel free to share those below. Again, I hope it helps and hope everybody has a great day.